And okay, well, let's us start because we have 2 hours and we have a lot of things to discuss. And let me share. Okay. Let me see if I can see you. Oops. Okay.
Rearrange.
Yes, I'm rearranging my screen. Now I can see you and I can see our PowerPoint. And let me first of all, invite you and welcome you to the Dialogic Pedagogy in Monologic Conventional Educational Institution online forum. Hi, Yorgos. And this is actually will be discussion of our survey. We did a survey, we meaning in this case 7 people who participated in the survey. It's Anna, who is present here from United States, Charles from New Zealand, Kobe, I don't see Kobe here. Hopefully
Okay.
I think he's from also United States. Maybe he will join us later. Eugene, it's me. Hi. Hadi from Iran. Hadi is here. Very good. We have Tara from India. Tara is right there. Welcome, welcome. And Yorgos from Greece. Hi, Yorgos. Okay. And we also have Redi, who was also part of the organizer
Yeah,
of
I
this
don't see
forum.
your ghost. I mean, where is he here?
Yorgos right there. I can see it on my screen. Yeah,
I'm here. Yes. Hello. Hello from Greece.
Hello.
Okay, great. I can see. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so let me start with the organization of our 2-hour forum. So we have the following structure. We have 5 questions that we ask in the survey. First question was about our practices in dialogic pedagogy or dialogic education. Question number 2 was about challenges that we have practicing our dialogic pedagogy / education in conventional monologic educational institution. Question number 3 about what kind of strategies do we use in order to practice our dialogic education, dialogic pedagogy in monologic conventional institution. Question number 4 about achievements that we feel in practicing our educational dialogic pedagogy / education in monologic institution. Question number 5, it's about our questions. Like what kind of questions we are facing with in our practice in conventional monologic institution. And the next slide, it's about noticed disagreements. And all these slides were prepared by Anna and me. And maybe we missed something, so feel free to add things. Each slide, we're planning to spend 15 minutes for each slide. First, we present the summary of the each question. Then we will ask people who participated in survey just make a comments and maybe provide example, whatever you want. And if we have time, few people who just participants of our forum who are not participants of survey, feel free to ask questions, make observation, comments. Also, you can write in chat. So, and probably we will try to address that all together. After that, we have some announcement that prepared hopefully by Hadi about creating a special issue about this forum. And people who welcome to participate in this special issue is people who are part of this survey, but maybe not. People who maybe just participants of our forum also, if you want to, you're welcome to participate. And again, Hadi will provide some information he prepared for us. And then we will just say thank you for participation in our forum and goodbye. Now, what I will do, I will send in the chat, in our chat, I will send a link to the survey, to results of the survey. So the ones that we're going to present. Okay, anybody has questions, comments about the structure of the forum? Okay. No, in this case, let's us start. So we're starting with the first question about our practices. And again, Anna and I, we prepared some kind of common themes in the 7 replies that we got. So one thing's that very interesting, it's about beginning from our dialogic practice starts with the beginning from the students' interests. Some of us use the curriculum map as a list of the possible topics for the class that created by the students and by us. And students can add new topics. That's one possibility for that. And they choose at the end of the class what they want to study next. That's one of the things. Experiences that they bring there and agency. And specifically, these themes was mentioned by Eugene, Anna, and Tara. Also, in other themes was use of dialogic provocations. And this is 2 different types of dialogic provocations. One to ignite genuine thinking, and this is Tara and Hadi were mentioning that, or provoke students' inquiries and puzzlements, and this is what's mentioned by Eugene, Anna, and Hadi. Another themes was create a safe, trusting, dignifying, respectful dialogic space or environment. And this theme is rather like at least 5 people mentioned that. Anna, Eugene, Yorgos, Hadi, and Tara. Encourage testing, contesting, and developing ideas. That was topic that was mentioned by Eugene, Anna, Kobe, and Tara. Sustain dialogue is ongoing, cumulative, purpose-driven inquiry. Anna, Tara, and Hadi mentioned that. Frame a dialogue as democratic, voluntary, ontological, and civic human practice. It was mentioned by Kobe, Anna, and Eugene. And I think, oh, there is a 7th one, yes. Support inclusion and multiple ways of participating. And this is Anna, Kobe, Hadi, and Tara that mentioned that. We want, Anna and I want in advance apologize if we forgot somebody or misinterpret. If you say, no, I actually didn't mention that. So feel free to say that, or if you want to give example or make any comments that you want. And first I will asking people who participated in the survey, if you want to elaborate on something. And so we're just open right now for Charles, Tara, Hadi, Yorgos. Feel free to comment on that.
And I'm measuring time, 15 minutes. And then if other people want to join in, we have another 5 minutes for that.
Yeah, and again, for other people, if you want, you can write something in chat. By the way, if somebody wants to provide examples of the different aspects of your practice, feel free to do that.
So, because can I just make a preliminary comment here? This was a hard one for me to answer because I teach mainly primary school, elementary school students, and so framing something conceptually or analytically for the children when they're very used to and just intuitively now accommodating a conventional monologic encounters to just suddenly, like in an articulate way, to say this is how we're doing it instead is still kind of monologic. So what you kind of have to do is create a shared experiential learning space for the children by doing something. And one of the best ways we find that with primary school children is to say to them, we're going to do something, we want to start with something that you all know about. So we're not starting as the experts, we're all assuming they have some common knowledge. So whether we're starting off with a poet or some poetry or a study of a place where they've all been to and all the things. So the first thing they need to do, it's kind of like a kind of theatre that we have called verbatim theatre, where they have to go home and talk to their parents and their grandparents and all their friends and bring all the things that they know about that to the classroom before we even decide what we're going to do. So we do start off with what the student know, but in a very open and sometimes quite chaotic way. But we do establish all kinds of practices to share that, to make that a communal activity in the classroom as well. And I could describe those in more detail later.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. Anybody else?
I wanted to share my experience if no other person would like to speak. So first of all, it's nice to meet you all, and it's very actually pleasing for me to be among such like professional people. First of all, I would like to talk about myself. I have taught Dialogic. I have tried to teach Dialogically both in Japan and Iran. I was actually, as I was doing my PhD studies in Japan, so I was teaching in Japan as well, Japanese universities. And also it's been like 8 years that I'm teaching in Iranian universities. So this like comparison of Japanese and Iranian culture is very kind of revealing to me. And in this presentation, in this forum, I would like to share my experiences.
Good.
Okay, so in the following parts, I would, I don't want to take the floor. So in the following parts, I would like to present some parts of my finding.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know, Tara, do you want to add something? We cannot hear
Yeah,
you.
right.
Now we can.
Yeah, since we skipped the introductory part, I thought I'd just tell everyone that I'm from India, and my interest in this dialogic pedagogy developed very naturally out of a necessity of wanting to connect to my students. So failure was the first stepping stone. As long as I was teaching students who are from middle class English medium, everything seemed to go like a song. I thought I was very good teacher. Whatever I taught was, received by the students, and they did very well. I didn't realize that they were already there where the curriculum needed them, and that I could go beyond. And it's only when I started teaching culturally diverse students that my method somehow, strategy, everything seemed to kind of melt away. And then I seemed to be kind of, I felt like a novice standing there in front of my students when I posed some questions to them, thinking that I'd provoked their thinking, which was my assumption about a dialogic pedagogy. And then I realized that students were not interested in any of those things that I was doing. And it looked like circus to them. And then they said, do the lesson. In Kannada, they said, Pata Madi. That means do the lesson. And for them, do the lesson means, reading line by line, explaining and giving meaning of every word, and then, translating the whole thing so they just get a gist of what is there in the book. I'm talking about teaching English as second language. And so my real journey into dialogic pedagogy started there with that failure. And from then on, I realized that I can't just take things for granted, even in terms of principles. When we say we have a provocative question, that doesn't mean that's dialogic in practice. We need to really connecting to students happen. It has to happen in the classroom in real time, and you need to have that sensitivity to really, understand students from their perspective. And so this has been my saga of struggle throughout. And even now, although I'm retired, I still, like even this evening, I have an online class with students. And as we teach students, me and my colleague, another colleague of mine, we do some online teaching. These are students from rural areas who come into online classes once a week. And when we do that, we also realize we also have teachers with them. So it's simultaneously teaching and teacher education for us. This is my dialogic pedagogy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
Yorgos, do you want to add something?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
It's just that my experience is very, very limited. I did my PhD in pedagogics, and afterwards I entered the formal educational system because I wanted to have this the lived experience from within. And the main challenge that I always struggle, and I won't take the floor now, perhaps in challenges afterwards, was how to deal with this monologic structure and in the thinking of the children.
Mhm.
So yes, I agree with Tara, especially if I understood correctly, that we should also, I mean, we should authentically enter in a dialogue with children and with their own already formed mentality.
Thank you. I don't know if you have time or not, Anna. Do we have time?
We have another 5 minutes.
Okay. Just in this case, let me say a little bit about fiduciary pedagogy. And I'm teaching in the United States and China. Heidi, you in Japan, I'm in China. And I'm moving away from the paternalistic education when education actually designed by somebody, not by the students. So in fiduciary pedagogy, I believe that genuine education is always self-education, and my goal to be helpful for the students who see me as helpful. So I see them becoming a teacher only when I become helpful for them and when they ask me for help. So I treat my students as someone who make decision about whether they want to study or not, and they have legitimacy not to study, what to study, how to study, with whom, how, and so on and so forth. And that decisions they can do it alone or with their peers or together with me or again by themselves. It's up to them. So on that, I just want to stop. And I know that Judith raised the hand, so you have a comment or question or whatever you want to share. Please, Judith.
Thank you. I have two things I'd like to share. One arose when I read Bakhtin with Audra Skukos-Gayetev, who reads Russian. And Eugene gave us the archive records that Bakhtin created about his own teaching. And that made a link to the kind of thinking that I do with and have done over the last 6 decades when I went back to graduate school to get even. because they took away all of the student-centered work and student-involved engaged work in the 1960s when I was a teacher in inner city Los Angeles. I taught in African American schools, and then I taught as a reading specialist with a team of people. So we engaged the teachers, we engaged the students, and then they took it away from us and put in standardized assessment. So the question of how the logic of inquiry that you're using is something that I'm interested in. Do you record what you're doing so that you can then, like Bakhtin did, go back and look at his own thinking, look at his own work and how to do it? That's what my colleagues and I have over the past 4 decades created an interactional ethnographic logic that does that. But the teachers, in some cases, who have a writing project background, have created students as ethnographers. So do you help the students take up that inquiry process that Bakhtin talks about, that you've all been talking about, so that they can step back, look at, figure it out as it evolves? Because most of the research in monologic institutions predefine what you should look at, rather than, in the Bakhtinian sense, look at how and in what ways these are evolving. So that's my big question as I'm listening to you, because what you're doing is fascinating, but how do you represent it, not represent it? That's my big question. And that's what the inquiry base we work with is setting up, the representation, which is something in that article that in the archive that we had access to, Bakhtin talked about and did. So that's part of why I thought this would be a fascinating evening. And it is.
Okay, yeah. Let's first finish talking about practices before talking about research on the practices, okay? And so I think Riyadi would like to also share with us his experiences, and then later on we can talk about research.
Okay, thank you. It is an important question. In Indonesia, dialogic pedagogy is beginning to grow, but it's still in early stage. Most universities are still dominated by lecture-centered learning and exam-oriented tradition. However, there are many dedicated lecturers who are trying to open dialogic space in their classroom, even within this structural limitation. So dialogic pedagogy impression, but it's still growing and needs stronger institutional support. I research use in doctoral research. Many problem in my class, but many many topic in Indonesian about an revolution and etc. Need stronger institutional support for dialogic pedagogy in Indonesia, maybe.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
We have 30 seconds maybe to finish. Oh,
I think let's move on,
okay.
and it's
Okay.
better to have, because I think
Yeah.
we actually leave it
Yeah.
behind. Actually,
Yeah. Okay.
not okay. Just a sec. Okay. So next is we focused on that survey about challenges that we experienced in monologic institutions. Again, Anne and I abstracted some themes from the surveys that we did. So the first theme was overpowering hegemonic monologic institutional culture and ideology of educational paternalism. And this is topics that we found in Eugene, Anna, Yorgos, Charles, and Tara responses. Second one is rigid curricula, preset syllabi, predefined outcomes, usually learning outcomes, they call it, schedules, classroom schedules, term schedules, and so on and so forth, and content control. And again, this is Eugene, Anna, Yorgos, Charles, Tara. So it's a very common theme. Another one mentioned grades, tests, evaluation systems that informs conformity. And this is the themes was mentioned by Eugene, Charles, Yorgos, and Hadi. Another one, restricted teacher autonomy, isolation, and oppressive institutional power relations. And this is mentioned by Anna, Yorgos, Charles, and Eugene. Another one is student habituation to monologic schooling and compliance culture. And this is mentioned by Tara, Hadi, Kobe, and Eugene. Number 6 is cultural and social norms around authority, silence, confidence, and identity. Kobe, Yorgos, Tara. And specifically, unfortunately, Cody is not here, but I just want a little bit emphasize that Cody really focused on dialogic sense of the silence. So silence can be not necessarily as something as absence of something or deficit of talking, but it could be, as Bakhtin was talking as about dialogic reply, or actually not only reply, but even addressing. Number 7 is dialogic teaches us. Often, dialogic teaches on internal struggles, risks involving doing dialogic pedagogy in conventional institution, colonization by the monologism and progressive education, and ethical tensions. And this is what mentioned by Eugene, Anna, and Hadi. And I think that's it. Oops, yes, that's it. Okay, and we ready. Feel free to, if you want to talk about something, to add things or to say this is my also theme. Let's us start with you. You didn't participate in the, I just maybe you did it in the last moment, but feel free to add things. Go ahead, ready.
Okay, thank you. One of the main challenge of practicing dialogic pedagogy in Indonesia is that students have been shaped for years by monologic learning culture. They are used to listening and reproducing knowledge, not question or dialoguing. At the institutional level, dialogic, especially around difficulty stories, and often seen as risky, time consumes, and potential sensitive. There are real concerns about classroom conflict and loss of control. Culturally, strong respect for authority and harmony also makes students hesitant to openly disagree. From my classroom experience, this factor initially resulted in passive participation and heavy reliance on lecture validation, showing that dialogic pedagogy requires careful, context-sensitive adaptation, not direct adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me tell you, because I want to actually next to ask Anna, but I want just to remind something that you told me about your experiences, Anna, that one of your administrators from your college in the past told you that you can teach about dialogic pedagogy, but you cannot practice this.
Yeah,
Can
I was
you
just going to share my whole
please?
experience. This happened about 8 years ago in the previous place where I was teaching, and I encountered suddenly strong push for standardization of syllabi and control of everything, grading. Like I was given pre-written syllabi, 3 syllabi, and they told me you just have to fill in the dates and what textbook you're using, and that's it. This is how you're going to teach. And I protested, and I said that yeah, in United States there are some academic rights of the professionals that we should have rights to decide our own practice, what we think is best for students. And I started a whole big process of complaints, and it went up to the many meetings to the deans, and there were people who I was trying to explain to them, why am I doing what I'm doing, how my kind of teaching is beneficial for the students. And at some point, this administrator said, it's very well that you said that it's all fantastic. You are allowed to teach about it, but you are not allowed to teach in that, to do it in this institution. My jaw just dropped then, and I knew that I will have to leave this institution. And by the end of semester, I did leave the institution because it became too oppressive for me. They took all the courses away from me. They gave me in some other part of the university courses that met at night only and things like that. And other things, but it's not. So it is a real oppression. Judith also mentioned in a different way, but it is one of the biggest problems. Not the only one. Yes, there are problems with students and our cultures all demanding monologic teaching and our own. But I think institutional oppression is a very serious problem.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay, Jorgos, do you want to add something, comment, make examples, and
I don't think I have to add anything that all of you haven't already felt. What Anna mentioned is a very concrete and open example of this whole mentality. Personally, I think that and this is my theoretical background mostly. I began from Michel Foucault's analysis of the institutions in modernity. And then I got to Bakhtin afterwards. And I was a bit charmed by the sincerity of his commitment to dialogism. And but because I always, and perhaps this was a common theme in my answers in the survey, I always focus on the, for better or for worse, I don't know, on the institutional commitments, let's say, in the characteristics of the structures in which we are put to function. And I believe that this is the most crucial aspect of the impediments we have to face, and we face in all levels of the educational systems, even from kindergartens, at least in Greece, even in kindergartens up to the universities. And this is my main question and my main the thing that bothers me the most, that whatever we do, I think all teachers in all educational institutions, systems, in all countries, of course, there are variations and different intensities, but bottom line, we all face the same logic of problems, of oppression, let's say, which comes naturally from the mentality of the structures. And this is a very, very deep issue in all institutions. So that's fine.
Thank you. Tara, please, if you have comments, please, illustration examples.
Yeah, I was just kind of trying to react to what Anna said and also what Yorgos was saying, that, what I do, the strategy that I use to face these challenges, institutional challenges especially, is subvert. I mean, it's very difficult to kind of, if you try to oppose verbally, and it's very difficult for the others to really understand what we are saying or what we are doing, and so we are likely to be shot down. And so what I do is, like, I kind of enable students to realize the benefit of what is happening. And it takes a long time. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes months for students to realize that this is, change their perception of what is, doing the lesson. It all begins there. And then once you realize that, you have to do, the mandates are there to be kind of followed, you comply with those, and then you realize over time that the students are faring better than the others comparatively, even in the exams, tests. So that's the point at which people stop kind of harassing you, really. I remember in the first time there was a parent-teacher meeting, and it was very, very kind of what should I say? It was a very difficult experience for me to sit there with all my colleagues, the principal, everybody, and then a whole lot of parents. And one of them stood up and he said, the English teacher, she expects, she starts the class by asking questions even before doing the lesson. How do you expect students to know? If they knew everything, why would they need to come to college? This was the question that was posed to me. And fortunately for me, by then the principal had kind of understood what was happening in my class. And so he tried to kind of soften. And then there was a demand from the students who went and said that, this teacher doesn't know to teach. We need somebody else. And so the principal said, okay, just give me 1 month's time, and then I look for another person. And after 1.5 months or so, then the principal came and he asked the students, let's see, I found another teacher, so now do you want me to change? They said, no, we'll go on strike if you did that. So, that is the kind of time that's important to understand the students and help them see things from, see students from their point of view, and also, more importantly, enable them to see you from your point of view. It's mutual, and that should happen. And I think that's when real communication and dialogue takes place. And then they become your accomplice in fighting the system. And so this is one way of subverting that I have kind of, used, especially when I was working within the institutional bound. Now I'm out of it. I'm helping teachers and students to get a taste of what this means and what it means to them in real terms. And so they get convinced, and they are also trying to transform. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me a little bit continue your story in a way, in my version of your story. I remember I was teaching and trying to promote dialogic pedagogy, and I had struggled with them. And let me give some kind of turning point example in my teaching that really I started realizing what's the problem was in the creating dialogue in the classroom. I did something that actually very it's a not widespread but common practice in the United States. I asked my students, this is not my invention. I asked my students to kind of remember their very happy experiences as a student as well as in the past, and very bad experiences as a students. And from that, we try to analyze together with the students what their teachers did that makes them very excited about learning, something supportive, and so on and so forth. And what teachers did that makes them very oppressed, humiliated, and so on and so forth. Then I was bringing a problem that very similar to the problem that they experienced, abstracted the problem. And to my big surprise, I asked my students what they're going to do. And they mostly suggested to do what they themselves told as a bad teaching. When I showed to them to that, share with them my observation, they couldn't even understand what I'm talking about. And it took me a while to try to figure out like why they cannot see obvious that they themselves experience as a bad teaching. And now as a teacher, future teacher, they're planning to do exactly that bad teaching, what they actually criticized. How come they not see contradiction? And I got stuck, and I was very close to that. You know how teachers start blaming students, they're stupid, they're not reflective, they're not critical. Da, 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 da. And it was that end for me as well. So what helped me to rethink that, I started thinking, I rephrased the question that I had. Not why they cannot see obvious, I reverse. What make them see as continuous their experience as a students to teachers? And my answer to that question was that the common theme was it was survival. Before they were trying to survive as students, now they're trying to survive as teachers. And they're surviving in my classroom as well, because I create regime in which you have to survive. And that's was a beginning for me, dismantling that survival regime. They should not survive. They should be dreaming about how to do well, how to be interesting, creative, exciting, but not surviving in my class. And I start dismantling my survival regime. On what I want to stop, and oops, Hadi, okay, let's see. Well, he appeared. Hadi, you're with us. Okay, do you want to comment, share something?
Yeah, of course. I would like to. It was really interesting to hear the same experiences from different people around the world. And actually, I've experienced, I could resonate with many of the things that you were saying, most of you. And I thought to myself that it's so common, it's not something specific to Japan or Iran. We are all going through the same, and there is a need for kind of reforming the perception of teaching and learning in most of these classes, because it has to do with, most of these challenges and problems that we are facing. I think they come from the fact that the students and institutions are understanding and perception of learning and education is a bit outdated. So in fact, what I do here, here in Iran, or what I used to do in Japan, in Iran, it's much easier for me because I'm familiar. I feel more, similarity and familiarity with the students' culture and background. So I know how to talk to them, how to convince them. And when I tell them about for example, the inefficiency of the system and education that they have had, and all the memorization and recitation of the school, because they all when they enter the university, they already have had 12 years of a schooling and education. And I usually tell them that, okay, how much have you has remained from those, how much do you remember the things, how active the knowledge and the skills that you were supposed to master during the school time is there. It's mostly get like memorization of some superficial content, and just getting, for the purpose of getting some score and like passing the courses. So I usually highlight these, problems and issues. Then I try to propose a kind of alternative, and this alternative strategy, and I try to persuade them that this is actually the reason that I'm employing this, like a bit, maybe at first they feel kind of confusion and they feel distracted by the differences they experience in my own classes. So in this sense, I try to convince that in this dialogic pattern of teaching, we can accomplish more educational goals. So my approach is basically, as I think some of you, Satara also was mentioning, and others as well, is to convince and persuade the students themselves. And as long as they feel comfortable, they realize the reasons, no matter how old they are or how young they might be. So it's much easier to work with them in whatever style and in whatever technique that I would like to do. They need to feel content at first, but it takes a few sessions or weeks, I believe.
Mhm. Thank you, Charles.
Yeah, there are so many things that I have listened to and agree with and would like to discuss, but I thought I'd offer something to everybody that they might find quite interesting. That if I arrived at a new school and that school had a formal monologic kind of institutional character and was very focused on the children getting high marks and passing tests and so on. And so I'd have a meeting with my group of teachers and say to them, do you think we could try this for a term instead, a dialogic and creative approach? And they would say, but Charles, we still have to get the same outcome. We still have to get the children to get good marks, their parents, the government watchdog, the principal. No one will like it if we don't get good marks for our students. So you see, it was a problem ideologically, institutionally, with the teachers, with the parents, and with the school's governing board. And so I would say to the groups of teachers, aha, but if the students have real agency in their learning, they will achieve those outcomes that you want in your neoliberal outcomes-based pedagogy. They will achieve those outcomes as a byproduct of the learning, but that is not the purpose or the ground of the learning. The purpose and the ground of the learning is this instead. And so we would do projects that were genuinely open and creative with the children. And maybe I disagree with a disagreement with Eugene here. It wasn't up for children as themselves to decide, but they would decide as a group with their teachers to have something that they would share. So lots of schools in New Zealand, the children are allowed to do a passion project. One's going to study having a cafe, one's going to study space trips to Mars, and so on and so on. So it's still them all learning about themselves. What can they come to school to do that they can only do at school with each other in a group? In other words, have collective agency. When the children get that agency, when they discover what that is, and a variety of projects, then my teachers at the end of the term are stunned to see the children have achieved the conventional outcomes far better when they weren't the main thing that they needed to do. And that was a stunning experience for them. And that experience was repeated over and over again. And that was a real change. And of course, as you'll all understand, using that way of approaching learning, the children, first of all, needed to be involved in the assessment and evaluation of their own learning. They were in front of that as well.
Mhm. Thank you. And this is our disagreement with between Charles and me, but we will continue. Okay, so let's move to the next things, which is strategy that we use to respond to these difficulties that we were talking about. So one themes that we noticed is stay strategically under institutional radar in our pedagogical, dialogic pedagogy or education activism. And this is mentioned by Eugene and Anna. That's part of my comment is this is me coming from Soviet Union, a very totalitarian country. And this is one of the way of dealing with that. So it's kind of my cultural upbringing tells me to do that. Another one, build trust, divergence, humor, carnivalesque, dignity, and community to sustain dialogic life, changing educational chronotype. And this is mentioned by Anna, Tara, Yorgos, and Hadi. Another topic was explicitly frame dialogue as democratic, civic, and human practice. This is Kobe and Hadi. Normalize uncertainty, authorship, openness, and divergent thinking is Kobe, Charles, Tara, and Yorgos. Reshape or eliminate assessment to reduce coercion and performance pressure. This is Kobe, Charles, Anna, and Eugene mentioned that. Dialogization or meaning making, education and life. This is mentioned by Yorgos, Charles, Tara, and Anna. Enact inclusive, exclusive, humane, dialogic ethics in practice. Hadi, Yorgos, Tara, Anna, and Eugene mentioned that. Promote students' rights and freedoms, defending students against monologic institutions, Anna and Eugene. And okay. Let's stop right there, and let me ask Tara to comment on or make examples, or whatever, please.
I'll pick up from where I left off last time, saying that, the subversion also connects to what Charles said. It's about, getting the outcome even as a byproduct. You aim at something, your goal of education itself, your object itself is something very broad. You want to prepare them for life. You want them to be agentive and create their own pathways for future. And these are the kind of broader goals with which we teach. I think that's where the difference is. You ask the teachers, and they also cherish these broader goals, but their practice, there is a gap in their practice, in that they are only worried about the exam outcome. And so they think that the only way to get there is through rote practices, helping them to learn over and over again what is expected in the exams. So but what we need to help students and everybody see, even parents for that matter, even those parents, it's a very relational kind of a situation where the whole, changing your strategies alone does not really it's not really very powerful, in the sense that it might just kind of center in your classroom. But even there, you have resistance from all the people around, because there is a surrounding inertia which does not allow you to really perform. Like Anna said, what you want to do, you cannot achieve. You can't be an activist alone and then fight that surrounding inertia, which offers resistance and limits your dialogic practices. And so this is where you need to slowly educate all the parents. The parents also realize that this has better outcome for their students than, for their children, than the regular narrow instrumental goal that conventionally is followed in the schools. And so I think that is the strategy. And so building trust not only with students, but also with parents, the parents and colleagues, because they tend to be very cynical. And that is something that we need to put up with and slowly change. I think everything happens when students start accepting, and there is a change, then that paves the way for change all over, in the surrounding. So these kind of ripple effects are what we are looking at as strategies to respond to what you want to do within the classroom, at least. But I think this has to go much farther at the institutional level to make deeper inroads and for the benefit of larger kind of student sections of students. Thank you.
Thank
May I
you.
share my
Actually, let me
subversive?
just a
Okay.
sec. I actually no, I will pass to you, but I just want to tell you, just attract your attention that you mentioned one more strategy, Anna, that it's not here, which is leaving institution that not
Yes,
that become too oppressive and you cannot
leaving, yeah.
practice that. So now I
Right.
just want to
Yeah.
recognize that
Okay.
that's one
Right.
that you already
Well,
mentioned something. Go ahead.
yeah. Okay, so I want to mention one of my subversive practices that at the same time I would say also is the practice number 8 that promotes students' rights and freedoms and defending them against the monologic institution, and that is to drop the grades. And what I used to call at that time automatic A. So we are not going to think about at all whether you know, don't know, who is going to judge you, that you'll be graded. We are just going to discuss things and learn based on the choice of many topics that they can choose from, and focus on what your interests are, inquiries are, without fear to be graded. Of course, institution creates a necessity to be graded, so that was reformulated, automatic A. And I remember a big resistance of the students for many different reasons, but one of the reasons was that it wouldn't be ethical, because like then grades don't mean anything. You're undermining the meaning of the grades, and grades are very important because it's different than somebody who knows for A or C or something like that. There was a lot of discussion in the class, and the whole class was voting to drop the grades. And then one of the students who was mostly against finally said, like, okay, I'm also crossing to the dark side. For her, it was the dark side, not having grades. But at the same time, this was one of my most successful groups of students by the end of the class, really. And she was quite okay with dropping the grades.
And to continue, I disagree with Anna. I don't think it's a right of the students that you're promoting. And let me give a story about that.
Okay. All right.
Because I also was doing what you're doing, and I stopped doing that because one of the students wrote that she wrote me email without just that she stopped coming to the class, and she said, this is the most interesting class for me out of all classes that I had so far. And she was senior, and she said, but unfortunately I because there was no grades, I switched all my energy and efforts on the classes on which I need to survive. And it's too bad that you didn't allow to have grades, because the grades will discipline me and to focus on things that I want to study. So right now, for my classes, students can choose to have grades or not to have grades. And this is, I see, the right of them. Not for me to decide whether or not they need, there are grades or not grades. Some students, for whatever reasons, want to have grades, and they should have grades, in my view, until they decided not to have them. And the students who don't want to have grades, they don't want to have grades. And actually, I did a recent study of that, and I found the classes is completely, some classes almost nobody wants grades, and some classes almost everybody wants to grade. And on average, and I have many classes by now accumulated, it's 50-50. But with huge deviation from that, it could be, as I said, some classes this, some classes that. Okay, Hadi, what about, like, what's your comments?
I have one question quickly. Can I pose a
Thank you
question
very
to you?
much.
Oh, sorry.
Tara, okay, quickly, and then Hadi, you will be next. Go ahead, Tara.
Yeah. No, the point
go
is
ahead,
that do
please.
you have the autonomy to grade or not to grade? Whereas in
I
school
don't
system, that's
have
not
any,
possible.
I don't have any autonomy. I just sabotage. This is my Soviet upbringing. Sabotage, sabotage, sabotage. So what does mean sabotage? Students who don't want grades, I ask him, what grade do you want for the class? and they give me a grade, and I give them that grade. I tell you, this is guarantee grade for you. That's it. Usually they ask for A, but not always. And I give them A. If they ask me something else, I give them something else. And that's it. And other students who want grade, they will earn grades, and they say how they will earn grades. And this is will be the kind of their story. And in this case, that will be there. Okay,
Yeah.
Heidi, please.
What you call sabotage, I call subversion. That's it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Heidi, please. Thank you. Heidi, are you here? Oops. Sounds like
I'm here, but sometimes, my connection is not stable, is unstable, so I turn off my video in order to control the data. So the thing here is that, I would like to share my own experiences of some of the complaints of my students that they have had, as many of you did. For example, I remember one of my students writing in the survey that I asked them to fill that in for example courses, more specialized courses, not like general English courses, just like for example, I teach courses like linguistics or translation and linguistics. So some of these students said, why do you think we need to talk? We need to collaboratively get involved in the discussions. It's not a language learning class. It's a very specialized course. So what is the purpose of this? It seems that the teacher, meaning referring to me, the teacher, because he has had this background of like language teaching, he thinks that, he doesn't know how to teach, or he doesn't know how to present the content, although actually linguistics is my main area of specialization. They know it all. The thing is that this perception and misunderstanding that some of them even complain that, for example, why do we need to speak in L1 when it's an English language learning class? I usually tell them, okay, when you are not even ready and prepared to present your comments and views in your own mother tongue, so how can I expect you to present your comments in a foreign language, in an English language, in the English language? I mean, these are like many different challenges, and I have always been concerned with like the strategies to tackle them. But there are two main areas that I usually like prioritize in my teaching. First of all, students' participation. And this participation to me shouldn't be just in the form of as Austin as sir. Sorry, I forgot the name. IRF patterns, if you can say, initiation, response, feedback, by Coulthard, if I'm not mistaken. Teachers' initiation should be somehow changed. We need to provide a setting in which the students themselves feel comfortable to present their comments whenever they feel like doing it, or they're ready. So not just in the form of providing an answer to this teacher's question, but they should feel free to talk and initiate whenever they would like to do in the course of the session. Another concept is two main areas, as I said, voluntary participation, and the second one is authenticity of teaching. I usually would like my classes to be more like authentic setting. But what do I mean by authenticity is that I would like them to feel it's not a repetition of any other thing. It's not something that is pre-planned and and it's kind of like superficially designed to, and I know every step. So simultaneously we make decisions based on the students' comments and views. So this authenticity makes them feel and feel their comments are valued and important in the session. So they have a role in the discourse of the class. They make a very important. Each student's comment is influential, and we care about it. And depending on what they say, so when we are designing it voluntarily and authentically, we cannot pre-design everything as we used to have in like lesson plans and everything that we are told to do in institutions and universities. So that is what I wanted to share with you, my own personal experience.
Thank you. Thanks, Hadi. Okay, Charles.
Okay, so
Please.
following on what Hadi said, and on the other comments as well, in New Zealanders in the South Pacific, of course, and from our indigenous cultures, we get some very interesting concepts, especially around language and the space of language and around relational pedagogy. And one idea that we use is from Samoa, and it's the idea of the va, which is a spatial idea, relational idea, and it rather chimes in with what Bakhtin says about listening, the preeminence of listening in a conversation, which means that I guess in our space is that it's this kind of betweenness between everybody, and what everybody says needs to be heeded. The children are being addressed by what the others say and by what you as a teacher say, but we're all on a similar level. The teacher isn't above in a hierarchy in the VAR. We are all there. And what we talk about and what we say becomes some of the main material and content for our further learning. Or, as Bakhtin would say, we are building up an internally persuasive discourse in that group. And that's such a powerful thing for the children to realize. Their language is theirs, and they already have it. They have it in their families. It comes from them. It comes from them talking to their friends. And all this they bring to the classroom already, and it becomes part of what we do in the classroom.
Thank you. Riadi, please.
Okay, thank you. In my strategy was to work within the existing system, not against it. I did not change the syllabus or assessment structure. Instead, I introduced dialogic gradually through difficulty story, case, and guidance question. Students were asked to connect their opinion with historical evidence, not just personal views. By framing dialogic as academic inquiry and reflection, students felt safer to speak. Over time, participation increased and students began to question dominant narrative more confidently. In Indonesian history education, dialogic pedagogy is highly relevant for them involves collective trauma and moral complexity, such as in 1990 Reformasi era. This period carries painful memories. Some students were historical actors, while many families become a victim. Without dialogic space, their memories often remain silenced, constant on transmit as close narrative. Dialogic pedagogy often as human pathway to break cycle of historical assessment and to cultivate a more reflective and ethical form historical understanding, making education not only informative but also healing and transformative. Thank you.
Thank you. Yorgos, please.
I would just like uh, to add to what and agree with Hadi especially about authenticity. This is something that, from my limited experience, I have felt that has a major and perhaps not in a quantitative way, but in a qualitative way, about a major impact, a crucial impact in in our I mean the teachers and the pupils relationship within the classroom and the school environment institution. And this is to to be linked also in relation to the issue that was raised about the grading and the exams and this thing, which is a huge impediment. I have had conversations with my pupils. I teach in middle school and in high school. And I have had the conversations with my pupils, agreeing with them completely, openly, and authentically that they are not their grades. I keep on coming again and again that the grading system is wrong. They are not their grades. They are not a number. I try I focus on trying to subverting this mentality that they should be. Of course, I know that I am not effective on this because this is a very deeply rooted mentality that the grades are very important and they characterize us and they know, everybody knows that this is a prerequisite of the system and of the society. But I try to subvert this anxiety, let's say, about the grading systems. I feel that I've seen that they respect it. They feel that they are heard, that the teacher does not treat them like students rather than children, like people in this role. And I am very open and I am very insistent that that grades are simply like a feedback on their learning effort. So, and that it's not that they are not supposed to be good pupils. They are supposed to make sense of what is presented to them, and that the system is wrong, and they are not crazy for thinking that. And but that we are all trying within this system to make the best of it. And I try through dialogue and the meaning searching procedures and open-ended dialogues and leaving the space and the time for them to criticize whatever they hear, and that all opinions are equally respected, and that they are not judged by the content of their opinions, but the documentation of their opinions. And this is it. So I think that perhaps the most crucial thing that we can do is to make them feel heard. We had just to add that we had a meeting with a school psychologist last year, and she told us, to the teachers, that one thing that all pupils say as the main thing that frustrates them is that teachers generally don't listen to them. They don't feel respected because they are not heard. And from my limited experience, trying to focus on these aspects, I think that this is the aspect to which they mostly respond to. And this links also in learning outcomes, as many have already mentioned. I think Charles focused on that, I think, previously. And just to add one experience, it's not my experience, but again, in relation to grading systems and so forth, I knew of a teacher in Greece, an elementary teacher, who had a long experience in trying to subvert these mentalities. And she was teaching for several years in a small village in Greece, in Crete. And she wanted to drop the grades, like Anna mentioned. And she had a meeting with in a restaurant, in a local restaurant, with all the parents. And she explained to them that I think that we should drop the grades. And this is why, and this is how the grading system functions in your children's psychology and mentality and in the system and in society. That's why they want this grading system, and this is what this causes, and so forth, so forth. And she was telling me that that they heard her, they understood it, they hadn't thought of it like that, and they agreed, all except for one parent who took her child and took it to another school. And this is not just to say this is just a relevant experience. I would very much like to hear, and I mean to hear these parents' feelings as well, and how her child felt this contradiction, this contrast. But this is also something that happened. That hadn't she done it like that, hadn't she communicated with the parents, I think it was destined to be a failure in her class. But this led to a success, I think.
Thank you. We're moving to the next one, which is achievements we have experienced. And unfortunately, sorry, all of them right there. So let me read all of them. So one is sustaining dialogic practice ethically and intellectually over time. So I'm practicing that, I would say, for soon it will be. Well, actually, it's with California part, it will be more than 30 years. Anna has also mentioned that. Strengthening students' willingness, courage, and capacity to speak. Kobe, Tara, Yorgos, and Hadi mentioned that. Developing a deeper, richer, more meaningful thinking and understanding in students. Hadi, Kobe, Tara mentioned that. Shifting classroom culture towards honesty, safety, dignity, mutual respect, and community. Anna, Yorgos, Hadi, Kobe. Helping students rethink education, agency, and learning. Tara, Kobe, Anna. Advancing dialogic research. This is for Judith, for you probably. Advancing dialogic research, reflective inquiry, and collegial dialogue. Eugene and Anna. Becoming humbler teachers, less ideological, more responsive, more self-critical. Eugene, Anna, Tara. Gradual shaking off progressive education orientation, Anna mentioned that, and transformation of learning into dialogic and collaborative cultures. This is mentioned by Charles. And let me start with Riadi, what you would add or would you resonate for you on that list? Feel free to add or examples. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Achievement we have experienced. From my personal classroom experience, one of the most meaningful achievement was seeing a real change in how students position themselves in learning story. But I'm a historical teacher. At the beginning, many of my students were very quiet. The wait for my confirmation before speaking and were afraid of giving a wrong answer, especially when discussing difficult historical topic. After several dialogic sessions, I began to notice small but important changes. Some students who never spoke before start to raise questions. Not all of their answers were sophisticated, but they showed a curiosity and reflection. For me, this was a major achievement because it indicated a shift from passive reception to active engagement. I also observed the student become more comfortable dealing with uncertainty instead of asking, it's a correct. I start to ask, why did this happen? Or whose perspective of missing here? This change saw the development of advanced historical thinking in a very practical ways. From the research data, this personal observation was support to empirically. The experimental class saw statistically significant improvement compared to the control class. I use two class. Even though the overall gain was moderate, the confirm that things I saw in classroom were not just impression but measurable outcome. For me, the achievement was not creating a perfect dialogic classroom, but providing the dialogues can grow in monologic system, and the student can gradually become more confident, reflective, and ethically aware learning on of history. Thank you.
Thank you. Yorgos, please. Go ahead.
Yes, I have seen a small but substantive increase in participation in the dialogue. Like they have been slowly training to unlearn what they have learned in relation to how we participate in the dialogue. I mean, in a monologic and the passive way, trying to gradually fear less to be judged on the response, and more of them start to participate. But it's a slow process, and from as far as their openness in an authentic relationship, apart from the official institution interaction, that I feel that there is a response to it, that they notice it, they feel it, and they want it, they respond to it.
Thank you. Thanks. Hadi, what about you?
Thank you very much. I know that we are in short of time, and most of the time, managing the time is the most problematic issue for the logic teachers. So when we have like a group of community of the logic believers, I think it's the most challenging and demanding thing to manage the time. So that's why we are running out of time. But I wanted first to have a kind of comment on this forum. Thank you very much, Eugene, for and everyone for arranging it. But I personally believe that these are very important issues that are worth having, like I don't know, regular meetings and having a community, because each one of these slides and the things that you are trying to catch up on are worth spending and having a whole session and that on them, spending a whole session on them. So yeah, and my personal experience is that when of we know that the students are not used to this like the logic pedagogy and this format, because it's difficult to get out of their comfort zone that they're used to it at their school time. But the thing is that when they realize it, when they find it out, when they get accustomed to it, that they really value it. I have seen it that in at least in my own experience, that the students really appreciate the outcomes and the achievements that we can build up on together. I mean, we can build up on each other's views and comments, and the community is very like we can establish a stronger relationships among the community, and they feel more comfortable, and many other issues, like as my friends mentioned here, like psychological issues that the students might be going through, or problems could be, through this pattern, we can provide a setting in which they feel comfortable to present their problems and issues, and educational issues or psychological issues that they're dealing with. So yeah, that's it. Of course, we are facing the many different difficulties and issues and like institutional barriers, but I personally, I wouldn't give up. I would just I have a personality that I would stick to what I think is true. So when I realize that there is studies and researches that are supporting this, I wouldn't give up on like pursuing the goals of this dialogic pedagogy.
Thanks a lot, Hadi. Actually, I wrote just a message based on your in general proposal, maybe to start for us to start meeting on regular basis, maybe every 2 months, 3 months,
That would be a pleasure.
whatever. People who are interested in that, and we can develop whatever topic we want to develop, and maybe go deeper in one thing. In a way, right now we cover a huge territory, but we can start going deeper on something like that. Okay, thanks a lot, Hadi. This is very inspirational what you're proposing. Tara, please.
Yeah. So quickly, I'd like to kind of look at my achievement, not in terms of the grades that students are able to earn as a result of this kind of approach that I follow in the classroom, but in terms of the influence that it has on the thinking of the students and the difference that it makes to their life practically. And I'd just like to give a very quick example of a girl who was there in the class, and we had this lesson on Einstein about what happens to him in the history class, the way he's reprimanded and punished by the teacher and finally dismissed from the school. And then, this usually in the curriculum, it is used to pose questions such as in which year was so-and-so war fought, and what is the question that was asked by the history teacher teacher, what is the answer given by the by Einstein, and all those kind of objective kind of questions. But whereas in my class, it leads to a discussion about their life, where their sympathies lie with the history teacher or with Einstein, and why, what kind of dilemma, and how they relate to the dilemma that Einstein was going through. And so these kind of discussions, and these are students at the pre-university level where they have to decide the course that they are going to follow, that is kind of, that decides their life, I mean, what they want to be. And so these students are normally forced to take up science, and go into either a medical or engineering, and those two are the prized courses, professional courses. And the parents invest a lot and spend a lot of money, pamper them, and so they are kind of, the students feel really under pressure, obliged to the parents to fulfill not their desire but the parents' desire. So these things also came up for discussion, and I didn't tell them what they need to do, only raised questions such as, what would you kind of follow, your interests or your parents' interests when there is a clash, and what are the consequences if you followed your parents' wishes, and what would happen if you followed your wishes. And these are the questions that came up for discussion, in which students engaged very attentively. And later on, I came to know, one of the years, a student came to me, and then she said, do you know what's happened? You changed the course of my life. And she said that she was forced by her parents to take up science and then to prepare for engineering. She was a very good student. She cleared all the tests, but then she wanted to do law, and they do something else. Her goal in life was very different. And she said, sitting in your class and participating in all those classes, discussions, that's what helped me see that in following my parents' decision, then I would be miserable, and seeing me miserable wouldn't make them happy. And so I thought that I should do what I want and be happy and show them, and then they would accept my kind of decision. And so she kind of, she also learned to subvert from the way I was subverting in the classroom. And she took up the law entrance exam without telling her father, and just kind of, admitting it to her mother and taking her into confidence. And then she cleared it, and she got a seat, and then the mother had a case to put before the father, and then they kind of managed to. So the day she got her placement, she came running, and she was almost under the wheels of my car. She was so excited, she wanted to tell me. And I didn't even know that so much turmoil she was going through all these months that we were in the class. So for me, this is, when it resonates, what happens in class, the discussions, and when they can relate to it in a practical way and apply it to their own lives, and gain that agency to follow their interests. And that for me is an achievement. Thank you.
Thanks. Anna, please. We cannot hear you.
I was just showing that we have 2 minutes left. Didn't want to talk about, but if you want me to say something, I think my greatest achievement was when I realized what actually was stopping me from listening to the students and engaging with their issues and questions and deepening discussion. And that was like a complete change. I felt it like a movement of my heart from one side to another side, when the issues that the students were bringing became more important than what I had in mind is important in that class. I think that was not only rational, it was very irrational, very insightful, kind of like almost involuntary aha moment, and that changed. But I still have a lot of issues with trying to kind of like follow up my agenda, create goals for the students that they didn't create for themselves and things like that.
Mhm. Thanks, Charles. You don't have much time, but please help with the time.
I just well, one thing. Do you know, it's a really interesting thing when you get a class of students, especially children, and they engage in a project, some kind of creative arts project, especially, but it can be outdoors or involve science. And when they say at the end, when you see that they're addressing the topic, but they're also addressing each other and maybe you as well, hopefully, and they say and they understand that they couldn't have done what they did or learnt what they did without each other. They couldn't have done it. If each one of them, it was an aesthetic kind of thing. If each one of them hadn't been involved in what they did, the project wouldn't have been as it was, including all the strife and discord they had to go through. Of course, I was there to help them, but that sense of autonomy they had as a group that included everybody. So it meant that learning had this ethical dimension as well, which of course in the institutional system has in a negative way, because lack of success in grades also somehow impugns a child's ethical behavior as well. So it's the reverse of that.
Thank
So
you.
I always felt successful when the children were able to do that.
Mhm. Thank you. One interesting thing that I just want to add from myself, one practice that I have is in the midterm, in the middle of semester. I have like 15-week semester. In United States, in China, it's completely different story, but it's I'm meeting every day for 4 hours. So with my Chinese students, and it's 2 hours plus 2 hours, two in the morning to afternoon, with the break, 2 hour break. And in the middle of that, middle of this term, we have something I call it a midterm town hall meeting, in which we deconstruct the class and making students make proposal, what to change and why. And there is debates, this discussion, pros and cons, debates, and then they're voting on that. What's interesting is that usually in Chinese classes, they generate usually 15, 20 proposals, while in United States usually 5, 7. And it's a very interesting cultural kind of difference, because I asked some of my American students why, like I'm told them about in China, it's like 15, 20. I even show them sometimes all those 15 or 20 proposals. And they say in United States, they really would like to spend more time on discussion issues of the class rather than thinking, because they basically say the class is okay as it is now. Maybe there is something to improve, but they don't want to spend much time on that. But in contrast, Chinese students love this disassembling class and figure out and there is big debates and voting, and it's very energetic kind of things in China, much more than the United States. It's kind of remind me Oscar Wilde statement about socialism. He said socialism is fine, but it takes too many evenings. Meaning you have to decide so many decisions instead of living life. And this is part of the American students, how they felt. But Chinese really like to engage in decision making about changing and improving the class. And I just want to say it's a very interesting difference, cultural difference between the United States and China, sounds like, because it's happened on systematic basis. Okay, and we're moving on, and now questions that we raised. And again, let me read all these questions. Again, we group them, Anna and I, we group them together. And this is now questions. Is genuine dialogic pedagogy even possible inside monologic institutions? Is a professionally honest dialogue possible in monologic educational institution? This is our abbreviation. And Anna, Eugene, and Yorgos, we found this question among these colleagues' questions. Next one is, can teachers gain the professional freedom needed to practice dialogically? Anna, Eugene, Tara raised that question. How do we work with students, parents, other teachers, and ourselves who are deeply habituated in monologic schooling? Charles, Tara, Eugene raised that question. How do we interpret silence, restraint, and quietness within colonizing students' dignity? Kobe raised that question. He's very much interested in silence, issue of the silence. Can dialogic pedagogy meaningfully coexist with exam-driven, outcome-controlled systems? Yorgos and Anna raised that question. I think also maybe Charles as well, but maybe I'm wrong. How should assessment participation structures and classroom routines be redesigned dialogically? Hadi raised that question. Scalability of dialogue. When is the classroom too big for dialogic pedagogy, dialogic education? Hadi raised that question. Where do dialogic educators find solidarity, dialogue, research, companionship, and moral support? Eugene and Anna. It's kind of basically replying to issue of loneliness. Number 9, what is legitimate role of legitimate, there's too much legitimate. What is legitimate role of educational paternalism in democratic dialogic pedagogy practice in monologic conventional educational institution at Eugene? Okay, let us start with Hadi, with you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, this is maybe a concise and like brief number of questions that we can tackle, and we all have, I know there are plenty other issues that we all have faced, but it's kind of difficult to put it in a single slide. You had a very difficult job, I believe, to summarize and wrap up all the comments. So I was, the most important thing, as I said, to me is that is there any part, but as long as education and teaching is concerned, I believe we have to stick with this dialogic pedagogy for various reasons that we have discussed so far. But I usually tell my students, if you really want to just be passive listeners, you can go and attend some lectures or conferences that are present. You can listen to YouTube or I don't know, different online talks or TED Talks. So they're there, nowadays with the advance of technology and so many available content. So if you just want to be a listener, so it's out there, you can use them. But this, in education and in like universities, our role is not just presenting the content. It's not just for you to be the listener. You're here to actually develop your skills based on what you have learned. So it takes time, it takes practice to develop those skills. So the main question here is that, for example, when we have a class of like 30 or 40 number of students, how can we apply or employ this dialogic pedagogy into the classroom? It's very time consuming. It's really demanding and challenging for us to include everything. We usually run out of time. My classes, instead of being 90 minutes, sometimes they take like more than 30, like 2 or 3 or even 4 hours. On Wednesday, I had like we had makeup sessions from 8 to 5 in the afternoon. So the students didn't get tired. They were really actively engaged. But it's like keeping this balance between like the dialogic pedagogy and covering the content that we are supposed to do is one of the major issues that we are all dealing with. Yes, and another point that Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Tara, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to pick on this question by Hadi. How should assessment, participation structures, and classroom routines be redesigned dialogically? I don't know. For me, this is a kind of a paradox, a kind of a dilemma also inherent in education, because I mean, especially in India, the vision that's put forth in the national education policy is not against dialogic pedagogy. I mean, it is very, very much aligned. The principles are very much aligned with dialogic pedagogy. But the problem is with the way it's going. There is a big gap between what is envisioned, what is aspired for, and what happens in reality. And there are many systemic, political, social, and economic kind of pressures that scuttle this vision. And so I think that is where we need to really look at, focus on, and research to, engage with this question. Thank you.
Charles, please.
I just like to comment partly on what Hadi said about time and bring it in to the question the question about how we as teachers ourselves are habituated to monological schooling, and combine that with question 9 about the education paternalism. And I sometimes think I know nothing about being a teacher because, let's say, here's an example very quickly. We go on a school camp, we've got responsibility for 90 children. Someone writes something really bad about another student with a compass on their wooden bunk. This child feels victimized. All the teachers feel constrained to find the culprit, to find him out, and to punish him, but all have different attitudes to this. And then you realize right in the middle of this, you've got a very complicated ethical dilemma here. Because in attempting to find and punish a student and maybe to protect the other student, you're abandoning other things that are even more important. And it reminds me, just to finish this off very quickly, I always feel a sense of shame after these things that I didn't do nearly as well as I could with the students because I didn't have enough time to talk to all of them and to listen to them, hear them. There weren't enough other adults involved. And there's a magnificent film by the Iranian film director Kiarostami called First Case, Second Case in English. Sorry, that's what it's called in English. And it's about this group of boys who don't want to rat on one of their number. They show solidarity for this boy for making a noise or something in class and disrupting the class. So they are all sent out of the class and they won't be allowed back in till they rat on him. And what's magnificent about this film is then they have all these pedagogues, these teachers and lawyers and priests and mullahs and so on, all talking about the ethical complexity of the situation. And that's what I felt as a teacher. Often I would be alone in trying to sort out something of great importance to the students, and I would be very compromised by all the different roles I had to play and not do a very good job in the end.
Okay, thank you. Anna, please.
Well, for me, one of the big questions is this question of loneliness of the teachers, because we work alone. We don't have enough time to visit each other's classes, to learn from each other. Being dialogic teacher is not only a technique that you can learn, it's also an art. And we don't really have places to learn and to apprentice, so to speak. I have a very big luck to follow Eugene's classes because I have time and I can sit there. And also, Eugene organized for many years discussions of our teaching practices, not only just with me, but with his graduate students too. And I find this kind of a really scrutinizing dialogic practices in real-time examples, like this, something happened, now let's discuss what was good, what was bad, what could have been done, things like that. These kinds of things don't exist enough. That's one of my big questions. and a wish to actually create some kind of a forum that would be something like we have this educationalist club that Eugene organized, but it's kind of like people don't have time for that. Many people come in and go away, and it's not enough. I think we also need to kind of like create possibilities for people to just really participate in other people's classes and then discuss that.
Thank you. Yorgos, please.
Of course, there are many things that one could say that, but I just want to, and each one of us has so valuable contributions to, and I have learned so many things from just listening to all of you. But I just want to add to what Anna and Hadi said, and Hadi proposed this continuation of the community, because I agree very much with what Anna mentioned, that the feeling that you are not alone in this, and that you are not crazy, and that your pupils are not crazy for feeling all this frustration and this upside down world is crucial in all efforts, in all our efforts. I have participated in other relevant groups of teachers and the seminars, and we all felt that, and it was part of the conclusions, that we need a community. We need to feel that we are not alone in this, that we are not crazy, and that we could support one another. But of course, the practical issue always is raised, that in the end, we are all very stressed from our everyday lives, from our professional situations, and we don't keep up with this conclusion. I think this is a very crucial one. And perhaps, of course, in international level is very important as well. One thing but there are other restraints like time zones and all this, but perhaps once again starting locally with our own small communities and the relationships could be like a stepping stone, and linking local communities with an international one like the one that we are having right now. So I applaud Hadi's proposal for a continuation of these meetings. Thank you. And thank you very much for organizing this once again. It's really important.
Thank you. Thanks, Riadi, please.
Okay, thank you. Based on my classroom experience and research finding, history education need dialogic learning because complex and difficult history cannot be meaningfully taught the monologic instruction alone. This topic involves moral ambiguity and multiple perspectives that require students to question and reflect, not just memorize facts. In my practice, I found that when introduced in a structured and context-sensitive way, without changing the curriculum, students gradually shift from the passive listener to more active historical thinker. Even though the quantitative gain were moderate, the qualitative changes were clear. Students asked deeper questions, engaged with uncertainty, and began to critically examine dominant narrative. This suggests the dialogic pedagogy work best when it's embedded within existing structure and grounded in real classroom condition. In this way, dialogue become a necessary response to the complexity of historical knowledge rather than an optional teaching method. Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? We probably will not have time to look at our differences and disagreements, and we will jump to Hadi to your proposal for having a special issue. So go ahead. Tell us about what you think about that.
You know, as I have personally wrote to you, I wrote to you. I wanted to, you know, I thought maybe it's a good idea that we could have a kind of like we could publish like a special issue on the like conclusions and the findings of our researchers basing on the logic pedagogy. But I think that we need to collaborate and think about it a bit more, how to proceed and how to actually what goals and what content we would like to actually publish. But that's just what I thought, you know, it's worth having a kind of like outcome out of our sessions. If we could manage to meet more often, after a few sessions, we can publish them in a form of a special issue. So I would like to hear about others' opinions and comments in this regard. That's it.
Thank you. And we coming to conclusion of our forum. Thanks a lot for participation. If somebody wants to continue participating, I have emails from everybody, probably except Ray. If you want, you can just add your email address to the chat and or just email to me, because I think Judith, you might also write your email, because now I have maybe your 5 emails, so I don't know which one is active. It's probably Gmail, right? It's probably Gmail account. No? No, not Gmail. Okay, in this case, feel free to share if you're interested in that. Okay, thanks a lot for participation. I think, at least for me, it was very, very interesting. And of course, I would like to spend much more time about so many other interesting things. And let's think about this, Hadi, your another initiative, or your suggestion is to have for us to maybe meeting every 2 or 3 months. We can do that. And again, we can discuss it probably through the emails. And if people will be interested in that, and feel free to invite somebody else who might be also interested in this kind of topic. I suggest, if we have a club, I suggest one title for that club is Cage Dialogic Pedagogy, because it's very short. If you like that metaphor of having a cage, and but if not, feel free to propose your titles for our club. And thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And especially those of you who come rather late, like Anna and I. Right now, it's 2 a.m. in the night. Thanks a
Eugene,
lot.
I'm happy. Sorry, Eugene, I'm very happy that both of you have a taste of what I have been going through in this dialogic pedagogy over the years.
Yes.
That is there. I'm not grudging, but it was very difficult. And today I was able to join with all my kind of frailties, because it was during the day for me. Thank you for being considerate.
Right, sure. And by the way, I just want to remind that we wrote a book, Bakhtin, for and by educators. And in that book, there is a chapter about how we were dealing with like our dialogic pedagogy within conventional institution. And Tara contributed to that, and Anna and I and some other Dialogic educators contributed to that. So, and the book, if you're interested in that, I can give you a link to that book, and you can look at the our like discussion of that. Just a sec, let me prepare on that. It's I think 2019, right, Tana?
And it's for
2019.
free. You can just on that link
Yeah.
download it.
Yeah, I will provide link to you so you can download it for free. Okay, this is the title of the book, and I will send you a link immediately after that. So if you're interested, feel free to read it. And okay, let me put there a link okay. The link is there. I don't need to put a separate link. It's already there. Okay, good. And it's actually consists of Charles. I think you participated in that book as well.
Yeah.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
So sorry, my memory doesn't work. Mature memory. Of course you are. And so that's also so in a way that chapter there in a way led to our forum. Okay, that discussion. Okay, well, thanks a lot and have a wonderful day or a wonderful night, whatever it might be for you. And hopefully see you in 2 or 3 months. Bye.
Very good.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Anna, for
you. And thank everyone.
Yeah. And then all the best for the new year. I hope all of us meet with more energy, health, and
Yes.
well-being.
Yes,
Happy New Year and
Hey,
happy all the
definitely,
holidays.
definitely.
Yeah.
To all of you. Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.
Yes.